Hey friends, welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Today I have with me Maddie Mackey, and she is all things social media and social and branding and all the good stuff that, of course, we all struggle with as small business owners. And so thank you for being on the show. I'm so excited to talk about these things.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk about some of these areas of my expertise and hopefully bring some downloads in for any of the listeners who are looking for some fun ideas on what they can do to up their marketing game when it comes to their business.
No, I love it. And the name of your business is Media on the Rise, right?
Yes. So I own a media agency along with a publishing company. And so what I do is I help anyone with a business, small scale, all the way to large corporate, host events, build community, build strategic connections, run their social media, make content that's really converting to their clients, and helping educate their audience as well and build value.
I love it. And then the name of your podcast is
The Outcome Mastery Podcast. And over there, we record business owners and amazing individuals who have mastered an outcome in their life and brought their dreams into their reality.
I love it. And I was on. So if you guys want to go listen to that episode and then, binge the rest of her episodes, that would be fantastic.
Yes.
So today we are going to be talking about intentional branding versus intentional selling as a business owner on social. But then Maddie is also coming into the membership in January to specifically talk about SEO, Google Ads, Google business, just in general as small business owners, all the good stuff that we all have questions about. And so you definitely want to be in the membership for that. So if you're not in the membership, come join us in there so you can ask questions at the end of her workshop in January. So I'm so excited for that. Okay, so intentional branding versus intentional selling. First, can you explain kind of what those two things are so we know what we're getting into?
Absolutely. So the easiest way to break it down is your branding is the value that you bring, right? Your branding is the look of it, the aesthetics, the pictures, all the things that kind of give someone that feeling. And then when we think about selling, that is your call to action. That is your sales funnel. That is the process in which you take someone through step A to Z for them to understand your brand and then make that sale and click purchase or whatever it is, service, product, etc. So that's kind of how I would break those two down.
Love it. Okay, so so obviously when we're on social, is there kind of like a percentage of what you should be putting out there in your opinion? Because I mean, you do this for a living. So have you seen that because we all know that the people watching us on social, first, they're getting bombarded with a ton of information all the time. And second off, you don't want to just constantly put out calls to actions over and over and over and be like, bye, bye, bye. And so have you found like kind of a sweet spot of the actual like branding and giving them information versus asking for the sale?
Absolutely. I mean, truthfully, for me, I think it's easiest to look at it as a 50-50 kind of ratio, looking at your content and thinking, am I giving away value? Do I have free things? Am I educating people? Am I writing lists or making reels or putting my face out there to kind of build that connection and allowing, I'd say, half, if not more, of your content to do so. Because the magic that happens once you start making sales and building that community is that they start coming in at a higher speed and a higher pace when you start to become more attractive in that magnetic energy, when you're really tapping in and practicing what you preach, all of the above. So that's kind of one of the main recommendations I would start with.
Yeah, no, I love that. And honestly, it's true because even like with the podcast, when you first start something, and I tell my girls this all the time, be aware of like jumping around from one thing to another, being like, oh, I tried it for a week. That didn't work. So now let me go try this other thing. Or the problem with that is you didn't give it enough time to work. And yeah. And so, whenever I first started the podcast, my husband kept asking me, he's like, what are you doing up there? Because I was always in my office recording or doing content and different stuff. And I'm like, honey, listen, I know that right now it's all for free, but I promise you, like, I'm playing the long game. There is an intention to this, but at first, people have to know that they can trust me and that I'm going to give them value and that I'm going to get them wins without asking for anything. And so then once a period of time lapsed and I actually started figuring out, oh, here's how I could help them. Where in the beginning, I thought it would be one way, like, oh, I could help them do this, this, and this. Well, sometimes you don't even know what you can actually help people with until you start actually working either for free or you've at least been doing content long enough to see what people will engage with.
Absolutely. And doing that free work or that early business days, those opportunities really help you understand where the problem areas are. Because when you're looking at it just from your life, ego's involved. There's a lot of other aspects that will kind of distract us. But when we look at it from a client perspective and we start to see, especially if we're doing it for free, so we're really there because we want to be there, you start to quickly pick out like, oh my gosh, these are several things that I'm seeing. And that is then what you can turn into, one, educational content, but two, sales content, because your sales content is communicating the feeling of solving that problem, right? You want that call to action to say, hey, I know you have this messy house. I know things are stressful. I know you're feeling out of control. I know your nervous system's disrupted. The mess is overcoming you. You can't get your work done. You can't take care of your kids right. Like, think of all the feeling that evokes. And so then working with me on an hourly basis to organize your house would then solve those problems in a very digestible way. And then offering a price or a package that is just unbelievable then communicates more to that ideal client, your audience, like, hey, this is something I want to click on because I've now related to all these feelings. I am relating to this person because I've been following them, and I'm now seeing a price point or a package or hourly rate that actually works with something that I could go and invest in. So you've got to be thinking about always, what is the ideal client thinking about on their side of the screen? And one of my questions I always ask on my brand audit calls is, why are people saying no? And why are people saying no and they're not saying it? So you have to do some inner work there sometimes, because it might not be in alignment. That's okay. It might not be a client you're supposed to work with. That's okay. But it also might be a flaw in your marketing strategy, in your funnel. Maybe you have a button broken that you don't even know about. So all these people have been just Xing out because something on your site isn't working. And so these are why being a business owner isn't just throwing out content all day. There's like all that you have to do for marketing, but then there's more testing, running, back-end integrations, all those things. But starting with the content that converts and the content that creates community is really, if you're just new to all of this, the best place to start, to just start branding yourself as a whole.
Yeah. Well, and like, it kind of brings up for me, there was one of my members that I was talking to this past week, and she had started kind of following this other chick. And she's like, I don't know if I can trust her or not. Will you check her out for me? Just so I can kind of get make sure that what she's saying is legit. And long story short, it became this whole thing. But what I did see from this other lady that I had never seen before, she was talking about how the old way of doing things was like podcasting, which I got a little hurt by that one. I'm like, that's not old, but okay. And then she was talking about having Instagram and having LinkedIn and having she did all the things that all of us are doing, is what she kind of labeled as the old way of thinking. And then she was saying that the new way of thinking, and the reason I'm asking you this is because I've seen a lot of business owners transfer to this new thing, and I'm kind of curious your thoughts on it. So supposedly the new way of making the sale is by doing, constantly putting out your content, but then that content leads to a free workshop. And then that free workshop leads to a discovery call. And then that discovery call leads to them actually booking with you without you having to do much to get those clients. And at first I was like, I could see how that would work in the online space, right? But then I got to thinking, and I'm like, maybe it could work in the service industry if there was a way to keep it very localized and to give people that free content of hey, here are some things to do before calling me, or here are some things to do. Here's a list of things you can be doing, or here's I don't know. You could always, the freebies are endless of, here's a list, or here's, let's work on this, one room together. Here's how to declutter. Like the list goes on and on of what you could do for freebies. But the idea that, instead of them just seeing a second or two of you on Instagram or on Facebook or wherever, all of a sudden they've spent 45 minutes with you teaching them. So I could see how that could work, but I was just curious kind of what your thoughts are on what seems to be working right now.
The sales funnel marketing strategy does work. I'm not going to deny it. However, it really just depends on how your audience prefers to learn. So if you're a coach and you're selling courses and that's what you sell already, then offering a free 5 to 10 minute version of the course with some worksheets would be really valuable to your customers. If you ask me personally, I would not sign up. That sales funnel would not work for someone like me because I'm not a video learner. It is worth paying 5 times the amount for me to be live. I'm a little too ADD and distracted sometimes. Like, I would just never be the person who would sit and watch a recording. That's not how I want to learn. So I'd rather be in person or at least on a live recorded Zoom. So I would be better caught in a sales funnel where like you're teaching me something live and then I'm going to get Q&A. But what we see is a lot of these funnels are created to make it feel like you're live, but then it really ends up just being a recording. And to me, that feels like a little bit of entrapment. Like I've gone on those before and then realized I'm on a call with like 500 people on a recorded call. And I'm like, oh man, I really thought there'd be like a chat section or like some sort of connection. And so for me, I'm also really spiritual and my relationships are pretty boutique and intimate, with my customers and clients. Like, I really want to get to know who I'm working with, especially if it's going to be a coach or a service that's coming into my business or coming into my house. So you have to just look at what you're selling. I think something that is a little bit more valuable, a little more in alignment to me, is to have a super high valuable newsletter and then have people sign up for that and collecting emails in that way. I think we should never rely 100% on social media, which is why I made some shifts in my agency to not just be media. We now do lead gen, we do brand audits, we do consulting for small to large companies because we wanted to really expand our skill sets and realized there's so much more to it. There's ad integrations, all the things we're going to talk about in your group workshop. Like, I'm excited for that because this is all skills that business owners need to have now to be successful. And if you don't figure it out, you're going to be paying someone else to figure it out in order to stay afloat. And so that's why utilizing these resources and learning them in whatever capacity you can is going to be one of the most valuable things you can do. Because it's expensive to hire someone,
Yeah. Well, and what I love about that, and actually even what I've noticed in the membership. So, when everyone comes to me, I just assumed that, kind of like you said, where you would rather be in a live situation. I'm the same way, where I'm like, listen, pop me on a live, everyone else go ahead and be on that live. We're going to chat with each other. We're going to do a Q&A. It's going to be very organic, almost as if we were like at a party with each other kind of thing. And what I've noticed is a lot of business owners, even if they do a quote unquote live, still all of the members are just in the chat asking questions. And to me, even that seems disconnected. Where, you could sit back and just watch it if you want. Like, if you're in the middle of cooking dinner and just want to pop a question in the chat, great. But if you don't even have the opportunity to hop on and like have a conversation or talk, or I don't know, it just seems so disconnected for me. And I know even on social media right now, what people are looking for is connection. Like, that's going to stand out above all else.
Absolutely. And for me, what I found in like the group memberships, I have like a one-on-one conversation with each person. Like, everybody has their own sharing time. It's obviously not required, but most people do share due to the sake of the membership. So there's little, ways we can tinker it to work with people. I think in person is the most valuable, but if you have a busy life, then the next best thing would be a Zoom call or some sort of group live situation. But again, if your audience is someone that is taking in content, they want long form video content, courses, etc., then I don't think that's a bad idea. We just recorded a stream of courses for the publishing company, which I'll tell you, it was hard for me to sit and like record like 10 or 15-minute videos. I was just like, wow, this is not an Instagram reel. This is really challenging my ADD right now. But I did it and I watched the videos and I'm like, okay, these are pretty good. they're packed full with value, like 10 years of my work into 10 minutes, So I'm curious to see how it goes. And maybe it'll change my mind by implementing that funnel and selling it through the publishing company, providing value. But as of now, just because it's a little bit how I like to learn and my preference, I just don't do it. And my audience, that hasn't typically been a way that we communicate in my
Yeah.
history.
Well, and at first I thought like I could definitely see where even doing like Instagram reels, I just feel like when we're going into people's homes, there's kind of a little bit of a problem, not problem, but kind of an issue when you're going online and you're trying to sell a local service-based thing when online everyone that's following you, they could be, in California and in Australia and here, there, and everywhere. It's very hard to keep it just the people around you. But at the same time, if you are taking the time even to do those reels and show up on video and like let people see your face, if you can become like the known person in your area for that thing, then who cares if other people find you from other places? Fine, they find you. You can still answer their questions. But the fact that you are still there and available for the people in your area to find you also, because I think that's where a lot of us get stuck as a service-based business, is we think about like, oh, I could go put up flyers or I could hand out business cards or I could we think in terms of just in our local area. And then you get on social media and A, it seems super overwhelming. B, you start thinking, well, if I do all this work, is anyone in my area even going to see me? And my thinking is the more we can get out there, and even if we have a ton of followers, the more likely someone in our area is actually going to see us. So I almost think that that's more of a fear thought, keep holding us back from what we actually could be doing and could be getting known in our areas for what we do.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're using social media to monetize it, then it doesn't matter where the people are from. If you have real followers and real engagement going on, Instagram at a certain point will pop up a notification saying, hey, you've been invited to monetize your content and receive bonuses. And so then it'll give you like a period of time and how much you get per bonus based on all your following and whatnot. And then you could say you have a spray you use for cleaning, like a non-toxic organic spray, and you partner with them and you're like, hey, like use this spray, blah, blah, blah. And then you end up making a bunch of money off that. So it's just another stream of income. And again, that has nothing to do with us, our specific location, but all press, all PR is good PR, And so that's just another way where then the news channel, the local news channel sees that you're getting big or someone mentions it to you or you submit a story or a press release, then they're like, hey, look at this business blowing up. Come and talk to us all about home organization and whatnot. And then see how that can just create that, rolling effect of really good things happening for your business.
Yeah, no, I love that because I actually just went to a networking thing not too long ago. And I don't do the networking things where like you have to pay to be a network member and everyone's there trying to not that kind of networking. It was like a lunch with just a handful of people. But one of the girls, she's a realtor in Knoxville, but she's known for being on social media and like blowing up on social media. But blowing up on social media has now also gotten her a ton of her clients locally in Knoxville.
And you know what? I'm telling you, like I had a gig back when I don't think we even mentioned everyone that I used to do professional organizing as one of my business. But I had a gig back in the day. I was flown out to Puerto Rico to go do some organizing and had an entire trip paid for, lodging paid for, and got to work. So, and didn't even have to work the whole time. Like it was a really fun trip. So don't shut yourself down, do a paid gig. You never know what's coming. And that is like, oh my gosh, for me, it's if you're open to travel, if that's something you're manifesting, then definitely utilize Instagram if you have a service-based business, because you see photographers for weddings traveling to Italy for their client's wedding and getting a paid trip, that we don't have to just stop that in one industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And even on Facebook, Instagram, wherever it is that you're focusing your time, the more that you can get in front of people is kind of the point, right? Like even if we're in our local area, we're passing out business cards or we're doing whatever, our goal is to get like the word out, spread the word, let it catch on fire. And whether that's online or in person, even if it's online, it's more likely that people in your area will see you because it's actually catching fire online versus, I guess, playing small in a way, or thinking that, oh, because I'm a local business, I have to keep it kind of small. I think that's kind of and I don't think we even realize we're thinking that way, right? Like, I think that a lot of times we're like, oh, well, I need to make sure that I'm marketing just to my local area because that's the only people I serve. When there's all of these other opportunities, it's just figuring out kind of what we talked about at the beginning of who is your person and how do you want to serve them?
Exactly. And that's why I always love recommending for people to kind of do this ideal client exercise and think about 2 or 3 people you've already worked with. And if you haven't yet, then kind of go back to square one, like we talked about earlier, and go do it for free for like a family member or whatever, and just see what that experience is like. That's the best recommendation that I could have to get started.
Yeah. Well, and I tell my girls all the time too, like, do the friends and family discount in the beginning. But if you're super, super new and you're still just like doing your website and kind of trying to figure out what you want to do with this, then you can always like just think of either who you used to be. Like, do you have a story of where you used to be? And that's who you're actually wanting to serve?
Right.
Or do you, do you have like a best friend that actually would be your ideal client? You would love to serve people like her, like you can imagine who that could be. And it's okay that you kind of make them up because there's going to be those people out there for sure. It's just trying to figure out who that person is, and it'll change over time. But if you're not talking to one person, you're talking to no one.
Exactly. And another thing we talked about that I think is important is the consistency. Something I see people do that causes a lot of failure is they'll post, like imagine a feed, when you pull up someone's Instagram, there's like 369 little pictures that you kind of see up front, and they'll have filled those and have posted by that point 9 pictures. And they're like, whoa, all right, posted 9 pics. That's like about 9 days if you do one every day, maybe 2 weeks if you skip a few days. I post like to someone else who doesn't do content creation. That's exhausting. Making 9 posts is a lot of work. It takes time if they're intentional, writing the captions, doing all the market research. Like it can be a lot. But then what people don't realize is like, as soon as you finish those 9, you need to have 9 more, and then 9 more, and 9 more. And ideally, you'll have then had them planned for the rest of the year, the rest of the month, the next quarter, whatever, schedule you're kind of looking at. So that's another thing that's important is you have to keep posting it. Like, does McDonald's or Wendy's ever stop posting that they're selling the same freaking burger that they've been selling since before you and I were born? No, they're continuously, they're not like, oh my God, would it be weird if I posted the McDouble again this week? Oh my God. No, they don't give a shit, What
Yeah.
but yeah, they don't, because they know they're gonna sell, they're confident, they have an incredible corporate big brand, they're good. So we got to treat ourselves like we're already that billion-dollar business, because if we're not, we're acting from a place of scarcity, and we're acting from a place of, I don't even believe in myself if I'm going to make it. And nobody wants to hire someone who wouldn't even believe or hire themselves, So we've got to be all in. We've got to be so confident, because your clients can smell that fear and that lack of self-trust on you. And that's why making sure, and if you're feeling unconfident or you can't trust yourself, that's why you need to go and do those free sessions and go and manifest and meditate about your ideal clients, so that you can walk in somewhere and be like, oh, boom, I've seen this before. You're safe with me. I'm going to help you. Don't you worry. Instead of being like, oh my God, like let me think about how I'm going to solve this. Like, oh my God. And that does, like, you can just see how that would give a client a completely different feeling when you come in a room like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's exactly what you said of just not fake it till you make it, but sometimes you've got to fake it till you make it.
Oh,
Like,
my dad told me that. And I've done that. I've walked in rooms where people have been like, what on the planet is this little girl doing in this room? And I've sold a 10K deal in 5 minutes and been like, I was like almost throwing up the whole time, but I did it. So it's like, yeah, you just walk in. I'm like, yep, I do media. I own this agency. Like, I make it sound like so official, even though like sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's like, boom, it works out. And because of that, now I'm like, that's like my low ball vibe, you know? And then you get confidence where you're like, if I could do that, what happens if I fake it till I make it to do this? And then it's not faking it anymore because you've now embodied it fully. But it's
Yeah.
scary. It's not like you're just like, ooh, I'm faking it and I'm feeling good. It's like you got to put on the music you like, got to do your pump up song, little dance, and like just get in there, even if your voice shakes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I don't know how many times I've told this story of, like before I used to go to a consultation or a session, like on the way there, I would mentally prepare and I'd turn on like pump up music, exactly what you just said. And I would get myself in a place of like walking in there, like, okay, I know what I'm doing, whether I felt like I did or not, because you have to, like, to them, we are the professionals and we are walking in from a place of, and what's so crazy though, is a lot of people think as professional organizers, we are supposed to have it like all together 100% of the time. But every other business owner has felt the exact same way we have. They don't know what they don't know until they get in the situation. But the difference is are you going to show that fear and show that like you don't know? Or are you going to be like, okay, I may not know the answer to that right now, but I'm going to go figure it out. And I promise I'll message you here in a little bit with that answer. Or like a lot of times, especially as an organizer, when you're coming into someone's space, it's a one-on-one conversation. So it's
Mhm.
just like you would talk to a friend or a family member or someone at church or wherever. And if you're honest with them, not honest to the point of like, hey, listen, I have no idea what I'm doing, but honest to the point of like, hey, that's going to take a little bit more research. And I want to make sure I'm doing the very best job for you possible. So as soon as I get home today, I'm going to spend some time on some research and then I'm going to send you options. Like make it about them. Like, hey, I'm doing this extra research to make sure you get the best options or quality of service type thing. And then a lot of times it's also just about having a conversation with them. And I think when we try to translate that to social media, instead of thinking, how would we do this with just one person? We start seeing all the people that might see it or all like, then it becomes very scary because it's not just a one-on-one conversation with people, even though our social media technically should still be a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah, and that's where I say like you got to just block people or mute your story or whatever from people if it's causing you to not show up in fullness for your business. I totally have gone through that in periods of my life where I have had to block people or mute people, or I just get really honest with myself, which is probably a little bit more realistic. And I just say, hey, if this person doesn't like what I'm posting or how I'm living my life, then they're definitely not in alignment with me. Because if I'm posting authentically and I'm not like, hurting anyone or hurting people or hurting myself, then it's like, why am I around someone who just doesn't accept me as I am, whether they're paying me, whatever, like it's just not worth it for your mental health and your life. And there's a level of connection. There's a level of AI and fakeness out in the world these days. So there's a level of connection that people are craving right now. And so showing that realness, showing like, let's use a organizer example, being like, you guys, like my kid has got crazy. I was sick last week. Let me show you my house. You won't freaking believe it. Show like that your playroom is just a mess, and then put a time lapse up and show you clean it. And then that one that shows a connection, any mom or whatever could relate and be like, oh my God, I've totally been there.
Mm-hmm.
Then showing the cleanup process, and every mom could be like, oh my God, I've picked up all those kind of toys before. I totally have been there. And then you actually now show what you're capable of doing. It's in that fast, really engaging, quick moving video that are all of our ADD cell phone brains love. And that is just one way that you had something, you already were going to do that. You had to clean the room anyway. Propping your phone up costs you nothing. Putting a ring light up with your phone in the corner. And then now you have an entire reel. Go match that up with a trending audio and boom, make a nice caption with a good call to action for that last sentence and send it from there, and that again, listen to how much work that sounds like, and then do it again the next day and then the next day and then the next day. That doesn't mean you have to post every day. That's a big question I get. Like, do I need to post every day? No. But the more you post, the more engagement you get, the more your algorithm will go up. Just like the more you post blogs on your website, the more SEO friendly your website will become, and the more chance you will show up in searches if you're writing blogs about those problems that you solve. So it's, you're going to get out what you put in. And I think that's another honest conversation people have to digest with themselves when they're entrepreneurs. Like, are you working enough to just pay the bills and get by? Which is fine. You have the choice to do that. And sometimes you need to be on that more like low vibe energy. Like, that's good for us sometimes. Or if your goal is to make a lot and have a surplus, like, are you putting in the effort to get that? Or have you got comfortable like surviving?
Yeah. No, I think that's huge because it really does, you know, like you said, sometimes we are in a place of, okay, I just need to like get this off the ground. I just need to keep my kids and my family fed and alive right now while I'm trying to get this going somewhere. But then at some point, you know, being realistic with ourselves, but also being willing to put in the time to get back what we're wanting, because I see it a lot where people are like, oh, I want this really, like, I want to make 100 grand per month, but then they're trying to find any and every way around doing the work to actually get that. Where if they would spend that energy on actually just doing the work, it would end up coming back around anyways. Or the other thing I see a lot of times is kind of not, I hate to say plain scared, but even like for me, I was terrified the first time I did a podcast episode, and I'm sure you were too. I was terrified the first time I did a video, and I'm sure you were too. Like, we all have been there, but the more you do it, the more that fear just goes away, and you just kind of forget about it, that you were ever afraid of doing that thing, because you get better at it. And so, but if you don't ever actually put in that work to do it, you're not going to get better at it to where it just becomes second nature.
Absolutely. And you got to suck at stuff at first. Like, seriously, everybody is so afraid to suck at something. And I'm like, come on. Like, I can think of like 10 things in the last month that I tried that were new, that I did on purpose to like, you know, open myself up to new things and experiences. And I couldn't have sucked more at them, like cooking new stuff, like trying to go new places, like going camping alone with my daughter, you know, like some things are so unprepared. It's just like hilarious. But now I know I've made lists, you know, you got to be organized and think of how you can repair these scenarios for the next time, and you learn from it. And I can already guarantee that all those scenarios are going to be 10 times better the next time, just because of my experience that first time.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you know, experience will teach you. And the more experience and wisdom you have, that's what's going to get you farther along. But there also always still has to be that action paired with it. If you're not willing to do the work, it's never going to get done. And, you know, you can hire other people to do it for you, but I'm the type of person that, like, I think you should still at least try to do it a little bit yourself at first, so you at least understand what it is you're hiring out if you do decide to hire it out.
Exactly. A good example of that is we've been offering back-end integration calls because it turned out people couldn't afford our retainers, but they still needed like these really important parts of their business integrated with like third-party Google Analytics ads, whatever. And so that call I decided to offer as a Zoom screen share. If someone wants it, if they just want the job done, they can get it done. But I was thinking like, and part of my integrity with the business is, yeah, if you don't want to pay $100 every time you need this done, then you can sit through and learn it. And in that hour time or whatever time amount you booked, you can utilize myself or the team member to learn it and use us as a teacher. But
Yeah.
then you're busy enough or have enough clients to where you're like, hey, it's not worth my time to do this. I have plenty of money. Let me delegate this out. And then it becomes an amazing service you can rely on, or an educational piece that then you can empower yourself with. And so it's little things like that that I've made a priority in some of the services we offer, because it's, again, I'm not here to like, I don't want to do it every time, you know. It's like, it's especially the things that are like, some people will charge to like change a picture on someone's website. And I'm literally like, okay, if you want to pay $100 for this, like I will do it. I will take your $100, but you can also do it in 10 seconds and I will show you for $100 and you'll never have to ask again. And to me, that level of empowerment goes so far. And if you think about it in a financial aspect, you're going to be saving hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, just by learning something once.
Yeah. Well, and it's that whole like teach a man to fish or whatever that saying is. But, you know, like the point is the more that we can teach other people to do the thing, Then if they want to delegate or get to the point they want to delegate, great, fantastic. That means your business is growing. Amazing. But
Absolutely.
you still have to be able to do those things. Or even if you don't necessarily, even if you delegate them, you still have to know how everything's integrating together because you're still the CEO of this business. So you have to understand all of the little nuances that are going on in your business, or it's not going to continue to grow up anyways. Like at some point, the bottom's going to fall out from under it.
Exactly. And that's where I call the difference between like a CEO and a business owner and an investor. Like you really only get to not know what's going on at the bottom of your business and still be successful if you're an investor. And if you're not identifying at this time as an investor, then you need to know what the entire process looks like, how to do it. Because if you have a team member that goes away or something happens to them or blah, 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 I don't let's not think about anything too bad, but like something like that, like you need to know how to fix things. You don't want to be struggling for that. And so it's not like you want to do that once you start delegating things, but I've had it happen before where I get back into some really elementary processes that I'm doing. And I'm just like, thank freaking God I started this business from the ground up and can do this. Thank God I could train someone else to do it as well. But like truly, I don't know what I would do if I didn't know how to do these things from the ground up.
Yeah, especially now that you're at a place that other businesses are counting on you being able to do what you know how to do.
Exactly. Like I would never even feel comfortable selling something that I couldn't provide myself or that obviously my clients knew that we have contractors for, et cetera. So
Yeah.
important. And again, that just goes along with the conversation of confidence, practicing what you preach, knowing what you do, like being able to come and have these kind of conversations just like almost out of nowhere because this information is just stuff I'm researching, studying, learning, doing every single day. So it doesn't feel hard anymore, because it's such a regular conversation. But again, if you ask me to talk about how like coffee beans are made or something, I'm so nervous. I'd have to write a whole like list of what we were going to talk about, like have like a little thesis and several points I'd talk about. And that would be a little nerve-wracking the first few times I did that until I was confident that I was giving the correct information.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love that, which is to our point of, branding, selling, getting to know what it is that you do, all the things, like the fact that me and you both not too long ago were on the other side of this. And which is why you and I both now try to help the not smaller people, but the people that are behind us just starting out, because whenever like it doesn't take that long to get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, I know how to do this now. Like I can talk about it, I can teach it, I can, like I can do this. But those first few times for any of you listening, especially if you're just getting started, or even if you've been doing this for a while, but you're starting to learn something new like Google or SEO or, kind of the integration things or the social media, no matter what it is, if you put that time in, like you have in your business, it will grow. Or like in our kids, we put so much time into our kids and then hello, they grow up and they move on. Thank God that we actually like put time and money and energy and all of the things into them. It's the same with our business. We have to give it all of those things for it to actually start to grow and become its own thing and, and succeed. And so either way, I just want to encourage all of you that are listening that you are not the only one. All of us are doing this day to day. You're not the only one that feels like you don't know what you're doing. We have all been there where we have no idea. We're going to fake it till we make it. But especially when it comes to social media or branding or any of those things, like being your authentic self and figuring out who you authentically want to serve is never going to be a bad thing. And as long as when you put out content, you are thinking about that person, you can't go wrong, in my opinion. Like, you may like live and learn, but you're not going to go wrong. And like Maddie said earlier, it's also about the consistency, like pick a platform and stick with it for a period of time. Then you can see if it's actually working or not.
Right. I mean, I'd say give yourself 30 days and then give your community like 90 days, of being consistent. I'm not talking just a week. I'm not talking just 7 posts. Like it's going to take time. You're not going to get the results that you want in that first 30 days unless you get like shared by a big thing or some viral thing happens, which is possible, but if I'm being honest with you, just historically, it's going to take time, and that's going to be 3 months for people to even believe you. Because if I'm selling something, especially if it costs a lot of money, and I told you about it for a month, and then 2 months later, I'm not even talking about that anymore, I'm not even giving any energy to it, why would I want to buy that when you can't even keep the hype up yourself for it? So to me, as a consumer, I'm like, I need like I don't even like McDonald's, but let's just use them as an example. Everybody's, it's a popular thing. But like, it even convinces me sometimes if I'm like really hungry in a fast place, like I know that's something I could get. They're always open, they're reliable, they're hyping it up. It's the same freaking recipe they've had since whenever the heck they opened. And it's getting more popular by the year. So that's just, again, another example of why you're the only one exhausted by hearing your repeated message. So remember that if you're like, oh, my community is tired of hearing about me, if they're tired of hearing about you, they're going to mute you or unfollow you. Let them do their thing. You do your thing.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up as we're winding down, because I've actually had people ask, what if I'm bugging people, or what if I'm, bothering like my friends and family? And I think that holds a lot of service-based, especially solopreneurs back from wanting to over repeat themselves.
That's just the inner child that was told, be quiet, mom's working, I got shit to do, and it's like, we all experience that in some capacity. Some definitely have a lot more trauma than others about it, but that's where the inner work comes in. Entrepreneurship will bring up all your shadows. That's where you got to get honest with yourself. Instagram is a public free platform. As of now, we can post whatever we want as it's appropriate, on there. So don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to brand your business. Don't be afraid to check your email and see every little sales email you've gotten since midnight last night. There's probably a bunch in there, all the candles, all the Black Friday sales, etc. And watch how those big brands got to where they're at and take some notes.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I tell the girls all the time, I'm like, listen, becoming a solopreneur is not for the faint of heart. If you are not good on the inside of yourself, your business is not going to be good. Like, and the more inner work that you do on yourself is how your business is actually going to grow. It's in alignment. Like, it's just part of it, of exactly what you said. Like, our shadows will start to come out into the light as we build this business. Perfect. So will you tell everyone how they can find you and all the things? And then of course you'll be in the membership too on January 9th. So any of you that are not in the membership, come join us before January 9th so you can come be a part of this amazing workshop with Maddie.
Yes, I'm so excited. So feel free to check me out at Media on the Rise on Instagram and all the fun platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then mediaontherise.com. If you want to get connected with us, you can email us at hello@mediaontherise.com. And any questions, of course, DM, email. We're here to answer them and support you in any way, shape, or form.
I love it. Yes. And then of course the Q&A and the membership, I'm so excited because like these topics are what everyone struggles with. And so I thank you so much, Maddie, for coming on the podcast and for coming into the membership. I can't wait to see you again.
Yes. Thank you so much and have a great day, everybody.